I'm excited to be with you today. A lot of people find it pretty humorous that the My Little Pony fandom was one of the predecessors to the modern online right culture. And a lot of people look at this show superficially. And even in the early days, it had a lot of right wing fans, right? And they're like, but how? And I want to turn this around on you. How can anyone watch the My Little Pony show and not seeing that it's a show that explicitly advocates for racism, racial segregation, or at least what leftists would call racism, not what rightists would call racism, monarchism, colonialism,
Jack.
and anti-communism, that communism is evil, as well as anti-technological progress. So we're going to go into all of these. The My Little Pony show and its political theming is far to the right of a thinker like Munchus Mulbug. I might even argue that My Little Pony is far to the right of Nick Fuentes.
Wow.
And so we're gonna go like it's so far right, it makes me uncomfortable. But it built an entire generation of right-wing extremists by incepting them through a kids show. Like, no, Simone, like you might think I'm exaggerating. We're gonna go over one episode here where the villain, and this is like a core big bad villain of the show, and this is a 2-part arc, so it's like a big show.
Okay.
Everybody has like their inborn proficiencies, which are represented by their cutie marks, the things they are naturally good at.
Yeah. This is the little like logo that ends up on.
Yeah, that says I am uniquely good at X sort of a task.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, I don't know, with Hogwarts, like you don't find out what house you're in or what your special skill is until you're older. So
right, but it is clearly like genetic in this world. For example, it's mentioned that in one part they're talking about like what Applejack's little sister is going to have, and they go, well, it's probably going to be something to do with apples, because in our family it's always something to do with apples. And she removes them all and replaces them with an equal sign. Literally, like, you know, the one the progressives use in like pro-gay protests and stuff like that. And then they all march around the town in what is clearly supposed to be communist style marches.
You can't have a nightmare if you never dream.
I'm sorry, I'm just having a hard time understanding. Different talents lead to different opinions, which lead to bitterness and misery.
And so we'll get into that in a second, but I want to start less than that. So let's look at how does it handle colonialism, right? Surely this, like, I'm going to read you this episode. You're going to be like, how did somebody write this? And then how is this conceivably approved? Okay. So the conflict arises between settler ponies of Appalachia, a joke on the Applejacks, who are a country-themed pony, being an Appalachian, but anyway, plant an apple orchard on the buffalo's traditional stampeding grounds without their permission. Now, the buffalo are a different species that dress up like Native Americans.
oh my gosh. Okay.
Clearly making it clear that in the My Little Pony universe, species as well as the different castes of ponies are allegories for race, blocking a path central to their heritage. The buffalo, led by Chief Thunderhooves, demands the tree's removal, viewing the land as sacred. We have a long and winding stampede trail that we run upon for many generations. The ponies refuse, citing the investment in the land for food and survival. The resolution comes mid-battle. So you may say, how did these ponies battle the Indians? So they battle them by throwing apple pies at their faces. So they bring apple pies as weapons. So keep in mind, in this allegory, apple pies are weapons, okay? Industrially produced weapons. The resolution comes mid-battle after Chief Thunderhoof tastes an apple pie thrown at him as a weapon and proposes a deal where the ponies keep the orchard but uproot some trees to create a clear path for the buffalo stampede. In exchange, the buffalo receive a share of the apple pies. So they trade the allegory for guns, industrially produced guns, to the colonized people it, without making any like major concessions in terms of their industrialization plans, it's basically saying, oh, you people who are being colonized, you'll change your mind about this when you understand all of the great things you'll get from industrialization, like guns. There isn't really another way, and this isn't done as like a shaky compromise or something like this. Effing Pinkie Pie does a whole song about how great this is. So for viewers who don't know the show, the pony, the country-themed pony that you're about to see talk, is the world's avatar of honesty. Like, she is a magically chosen pony once for generation for being like the most honest a pony could possibly be, and she defends colonization.
They busted their rumps here, and now they're supposed to bust their rumps again just because some buffalo won't stampede someplace else? The buffalo had it first. The settler ponies need it to live. Come on, Applejack. You're being unreasonable.
Can you, like, just, Simone, you, writer's room, they're like, let's handle colonization, okay? They didn't have to make an episode about colonization. They didn't have to make an episode where they dressed up a different species like Native Americans.
No.
They didn't have to make them childish and stampede pointlessly from one place to another.
They did not.
They did not, but they set all this up clearly because they're like, let's do a colonizer episode. And the point of the episode could have been, we're not so different or something. No. They literally made the key conflict of the episode the settlers taking their ancestral land, and they literally made the resolution to that being everybody wants the fruits of civilization. Just compromise on your tradition.
I mean, aren't the writers of this progressive though? What's going on? I do not
know what. No, you will progressively see as you go down this. I don't think they are. I think they may be like secretly like super racist. Keep in mind, this isn't like we regularly see in the show.
Or is this just the like progressive to racist horseshoe where when you remove the technical aesthetics of our reality, you see their true philosophy just come through and how they actually feel about everything? Which actually is
everyone will be the urban monoculture eventually.
Racist and imperialist and classist. I mean, in the end, the urban monoculture is all those things. It's the most imperialist. It's the most classist. It's the most
not as racist. No, this show, and we'll get into themes it has that are anti-urban monoculture in the extreme.
Oh, okay. So that's off my theory, I guess. Oh, they do hate themselves though, so maybe not.
This isn't the only time, we see other instances because there are other species than ponies, and we see this world like the ponies begin. Apparently, the various races of ponies used to fight with each other, and then they came together in sort of a class-based social structure based on their race, which we'll get to in a second. And they then fought off because one of the classes, the Pegasus, became the military branch initially. So clearly they were fighting an outside force. So we see other species that are on like the fringes of the equestrian world. And clearly we see how they're pushed back, and we see that they are treated with racism within pony society. So like a zebra lives in the woods outside of the main town called Ponyville. Cora,
first
interaction with her.
Isn't she like the sort of witch doctory one?
Oh yeah, no, it's super racist the way she's depicted.
Right.
She is a witch doctor who speaks in rhymes, who is clearly supposed to be allegorical for Black people, like Africans specifically. So anyway, she and tribalistic Africans, because she's very tribalistic.
Yeah.
Even after they learn, oh, she's not that bad, they don't like welcome her into the town. Until like the 22nd season of this show, she still lives in a shack in the woods. Okay? She is friends with like the literal princess of this land. Okay? Because one of the main characters becomes a princess. And the princess can't even requisition her a house. She still has to live in a wooden shack outside of town. But no, that is what is needed to maintain the friendship of harmony. So,
wow.
At the heart of the society show, you have three categories of ponies.
Okay.
And they're clearly allegorical for racial differences.
Oh, right. There's unicorns that have the horn. There's
Unicorns who can use magic, yes,
Pegasuses,
who can
Pegasi.
fly,
Yes, and then there's
and then
normal
there's
ponies. Earth ponies.
Earth
Just
ponies.
they don't have anything that they're not a Pegasus
Well,
or unicorn.
I mean, it said when they're talked about that they have a special connection to the land.
Sure.
Except we are seeing through multiple scenes that this is categorically not true. So they say they have a special connection to the animals and land, and yet which of the ponies can talk to animals?
The friggin'
only
Pegasus. Yeah.
It's the Pegasus. It's the only pony we know that can talk to animals.
That's
Okay.
Fluttershy for those wondering.
And then we learn in the second season, like the reboot of the show, Earth's ponies are said to get magic for the first time, and it is plant-based magic. But it is stated that they didn't have this form of magic before, which implies that they didn't have some special connection to plants. Moreover, when their cutie marks are switched, sorry, I am getting feisty about this. When their cutie marks are switched, Applejack's cutie mark is switched with Pinkie Pie's cutie mark, who is also an Earth pony who tries to take over the farm and is unable to run it, and everything is dying. So even as an Earth pony, it's shown that it is not because Applejack is an Earth pony that she is good at this. It's because Applejack is Applejack that she's good at this. When another Earth pony attempts to take over the farm, she is unable to do it. So you might be like, oh, so there's one class of ponies without any special skills, right? How is society maintained if that's the case? And the answer is segregation. And we'll get to how this is done. But what you will notice is outside of the main town that the show takes place in, most of the cities are segregated by ethnic group, e.g. by species, with the Pegasus living mostly in Cloudsdale. You can see, well, the other species can't live in Cloudsdale, except we know that's not true because Twilight gives the rest a spell so that they can walk on the clouds of Cloudsdale. So that could happen to other ponies. And then we see Canterlot, the main city, is predominantly, this would be like the capital where the aristocrats and wealthy and academics live, is predominantly just unicorns. Very, very few other ponies are there. And so, yeah, it is a class segregated society. But more than being class segregated, it is almost as if the Earth ponies are genetically modified to be something of an underclass, in that they are uniquely eager to please and affable. And this seems to be a genetically inherited trait within them. In the song about the character's flaws, we see Applejack, the Earth pony, literally serve as a footstool for Rarity, the unicorn.
I can be a drama queen, a bit stuck up, it's true, and I can be too eager to please.
We see the two primary Earth ponies' characteristics being that they really want to, like, Pinkie Pie really wants to make people laugh and make people happy, and Applejack overwhelmingly wants to please people and is seen as very, very eager to please. We do see Earth ponies without this trait, like Filthy Rich, but they are definitely the minority in Earth pony society. Whereas within Unicorn society, the majority seem to be arrogant and intellectual. And within Pegasus society, they appear to be very athletic, militaristic, and competitive.
Yeah. Though Fluttershy is not.
No, of course there are, outliers within this system, but basically what this show argues more broadly is you should take jobs and live in places that are aligned or coherent with your ethnic abilities and talents.
Yeah.
If you are born a Pegasus, you should live among other Pegasus. But if your talents are needed in another town, like an Earth pony town, like to maintain the weather within that town, because you would need a Pegasus to maintain the weather within every Earth pony town, you can go to that town and help them with the tasks that you are uniquely suited for. If you are a Asian, you should go be a doctor in a majority white settlement, because they're just not going to be able to handle that task on their own. If you're a Jew, you should go be a banker in a majority white settlement, because they're just not going to be able to handle that on their own. And if you're an Earth pony, if you look at like the way things are produced in this world, the Earth ponies manage this sort of underclass of ponies. It's very obsequious, essentially manages the production of everything other than luxury goods. The Pegasus take on the job of military and controlling the weather, which obviously they can use this to get the Earth ponies to do whatever they want because the Earth ponies can't grow anything without them. And the unicorns seem to, almost as a favor to the Earth ponies, segregate themselves. And this is what's really interesting, is the show portrays segregation as beneficial to the underclasses. Specifically, Equestria's geography and economy reinforce the de facto segregation, implying the racist, race-based divisions lead to smoother operation than forced multiculturalism. If professions were integrated, then resentment would brew. Why hire an Earth pony baker when a unicorn could levitate ingredients faster? The show's economy works because the racists, quote unquote, know their place, echoing arguments that racial hegemony in vocations reduces friction and boosts productivity. That I find to be kind of cool because it could shy away from this, right? Like it could not touch the fact that unicorns can do basically anything Earth ponies can do, but better than Earth ponies, right? But no, the show goes into this extremely hardcore. There's an episode called Super Speedy Cider Squeezy 6000, where the Flimfram brothers, a group of 2 unicorns, create a machine that uses magic to automatically both pick and press cider.
Let's bing bang zam! The cider press running guts of the very machine.
Meaning that they could create a near infinite amount and increase cider production significantly.
It's the spinning Jenny of Equestria.
It is. But it's framed as this very negative thing, right? The Applejack family, they're like, well, we'll take 75% of the profits, as they should, because they're basically removing all of the yearly work of the Apple family.
I mean,
the Apple family keeps 25%, but they'll be able to produce more and faster and expand their land, right? But the Apple family's having none of this. They're like, nope, progress is bad. Industrial progress is bad. Why would this world be so anti-industrial progress? Well, it's because if unicorns could just come out and do this. And a note here, you might be thinking, is the machine defective in some way? Does it poison the cider in some way? Does it? No. The machine is shown to completely do everything they promise it can do. It doesn't break and start making mistakes until to keep up, because they do a competition where they're like, well, whoever is better, you doing this on your own or us running the machine, that's who wins the rights to sell to Apple, this town. Okay.
yeah.
And Applejack, basically cheating, just works really hard in a way that is obviously unsustainable and against the spirit of the competition. And so the brothers remove the limiter, the thing that's supposed to maintain the
Quota, the maximum
quality of the cider, and it ends up including parts like bad apples. It ends up including, and stems. It ends up including, and everything like that, which. Again, that now they end up being framed as like very bad because of this. But I'd actually point out, Applejack broke the spirit of the competition more than they did. The point of the competition was to find out which way in a sustainable fashion was a better way to do this. That's the point of competing one thing against another thing. If you work so hard that you die at the end, like that famous case where the guy competed against the steam engine, you haven't shown that humans are better. You've shown that pushing yourself to your absolute limit. Second, they technically won the competition. The competition was about how much you could produce, not about the quality of what was produced.
True.
On 2 fronts, Applejack cheated within this competition. But what is shown from this is that the segregation of this world, unicorns not interfering in the tasks of Earth ponies, even though they can do them much better and at a much higher capacity, is a good thing. The unicorns self-segregating to the, if you look at the unicorn characters at the show, we know one is very academic from the Twilight, but if Twilight's engaging with like any other intellectual in the show, they're almost always a unicorn. The other is very high society, high status, producing cultural goods. Rarity, who owns a dress shop, and when she's engaging with other high society ponies, they are often unicorns. So the unicorns, it's basically like, we let this group that is naturally better than us control the wealth predominantly and the status roles and the noble titles, and in exchange they don't take the few jobs where we are still able to compete in any meaningful way.
Yeah.
So it's more than just the standard argument of, yes, there are racial differences. Yes, some people won't conform to those differences, like Fluttershy. But broadly speaking, you should lean into your differences and self-segregate. And society will run. Do you see how right? Like this isn't me reading something that's not intended into the show. Like,
I mean, but the friends, I mean, this is My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, and the friends are from different groups. There's 2 Pegasuses, 2 Earth ponies, no, 2 unicorns, and yeah, 2 Earth ponies. So
yeah,
you
there's two of each, but
Yeah.
they all fall into their group's racial stereotypes. The except for Fluttershy. Fluttershy is the only one who doesn't fit her group's ethno stereotype, as established by the show. And note, the show treats this as weird, as having a group with a bunch of different races all friends with each other. This is shown as being the not normal thing within this world. I'd also note another thing about the show, very not right-wing, is the world is very clearly matriarchal society.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, like super clearly. Men are
Men have
100% accessories.
Yeah, men have virtually no positions of power in this world. There's no male members of the monarchy. There are no male elected officials that we see. Mayor is a female. The most powerful male I'm familiar with is either Shining, whatever his name is, Twilight's brother, who ends up marrying into the monarchy, but does not appear to become a king or a prince. He's still a royal guard. Very much a woman's fantasy. I get to be queen and married to a royal guard. He doesn't change status. He still walks around protecting me all tough. And the other one I would think of is Filthy Rich. This is another powerful male who achieved, I guess, wealth through mercantilism. But this is there's a series of fan fictions about this that really made me realize it, called My Little Pony Fallout Equestria. Really like the series. It's very good. It takes place in the Fallout Equestria universe. Very dark. I love mixing the bright bubbliness of this with the dystopian of this in a way that highlights how actually dystopian everything was all along. And in one of the vaults, if you know the Fallout universe, they run different experiments in the various vaults. One of the vaults, the experiment is, what if we put males in positions of power? And one of the characters grew up in this vault and is always making faux pas in the world and just doesn't understand why men should be seen as an underclass. And it really puts this in stark contrast how much everyone else in pony society assumes that males should be seen as a rightful underclass without complaint. And nobody complains about this anywhere in the show. Even you can be like, well, what about like the more conservative, even coded parts of this, like the Appalachian coded Applejack character and her family, that's very much like a clan-based family structure, which is interesting. I never thought about that, but yeah, they do a very good job of showing Appalachian culture. But anyway, no, her family is clearly run by Applejack, not even the oldest of the siblings. Her big brother, Big Mac, is basically treated as a workhorse. And doesn't really talk back.
He's almost the lurch of the family.
Yeah, even though he's older and bigger and does more work. And the family is very obviously, if you look at like the structure of it, default run by the grandmother. Mm-hmm. If not, the older sister, who's still the younger of Big Mac. So very dystopian in that. And I just love that it was like, they just wrote it that way, and they were just like balls out on the table. Yes, women run this world. Men are basically their slaves. Deal with it. The society is okay with this. It works. Oh, and yes, racial groups exist. They live in a segregated society.
I'm trying to figure out a way to steelman this. I mean, I'm wondering if they're just trying to look at this from like little girls' perspectives, where when they're playing with girly dolls, that's the world that everyone lives in. Everything's run by princesses, and most of their dolls are female. So why wouldn't men? I mean, the problem is they had to flesh this child's world, this little girl's world, fantasy world, doll world, into a larger cohesive body of canon, a universe with different groups and politics.
But hold on. The problem is, right, is if that was the case, right, why not have a prince? Right, like,
because girls don't have princes in their fantasies.
They effing do, Simone. I have read enough female romance books.
Little girls playing with dolls do not.
Okay, maybe.
Even my friends who treated Barbies like throwing devices didn't have really Ken dolls.
Well, let's see if I can convince you further, right? So
Okay.
you could say, okay, they have a monarchy because little girls like monarchy. So the society is ruled by a class called alicorns, which are, so in this world, magic is clearly like an allegory for technology, like the Super Spider Squeezy 6000 was made with magic. So essentially, they're genetically modified being or genetically modified like god human basically is what they are. They are larger than the other ponies. They live almost forever. They have both wings and a unicorn horn and presumably some tie to the
Flows in a weird way.
yes, and their hair flows in a weird way. And it is shown that you can both be born to this cast if you are born of an alicorn, as happens with whatever her name's is kid, or you can be transformed this way through essentially genetic engineering within this world, because again, magic is allegorical to technology. Again, I don't know if I hate this, you know, maybe society should be ruled, because you could modify somebody to be more pro-social, to be more caring.
It seems kind of Aristotelian, doesn't it? This idea of there being some noble leading class that sacrifices a lot and is somehow superior in various ways. It's been a while since I've read.
I mean, clearly you can be born into this class, because we've seen, like, it's not just that people achieve it. Remember, Twilight's niece is born into this class from Candace. Candace marries Shining Armor.
Oh, yeah.
And then she has a kid, and the kid is born an alicorn. So we know that it's not like based on merit only or something like that.
Yeah.
And you could say, well, Twilight gets it through merit, but again, she's a unicorn, and the merit appears to have something to do with magical ability. Although we see in the reboot that I think non-unicorns can have this happen to them as well. So I think it happened to an Earth pony in the reboot.
I haven't watched the reboot. Okay.
So potentially it could happen, depends on if you consider reboot canon. But okay, so you could say, well, that's why it's a monarchy.
Okay.
But the problem is that the show explicitly shows democratic processes on two occasions. One was in the show and one was in the comic books. And in both instances, it's portrayed as a bad way to operate society. So in the town itself, Pipsqueak, a humble working class cult, described derogatorily as a transplant from Trottingham by the antagonist's mother. His platform focuses on practical improvements like fixing a damaged playground equipment. His campaign, managed by the Cutie Map Crusaders, emphasizes positivity, fairness, and community needs. Diamond Tiara, a wealthy, spoiled filly from a rich family, backed by her elitist mother, Spoiled Rich, a school board member who presses her to win for status reasons. Diamond's tactics are overtly negative and manipulative. She uses blackmail, threatening to expose classmate secrets, bribery implied through favors, mudslinging and bullying, including belittling her own supporters, Silver Spoon, doing a sing-off debate. And at times, she is seen as potentially winning. Now, this time, within the series, Pipsqueak wins. But even after he wins, Diamond Tiara still uses her money to sabotage by exploiting budget issues to deny his playground promise.
Oh, goodness.
Eventually going back on this, but basically the message of the episode is rich people manipulate politics to their own ends.
Well, what? That's a very progressive, and conservative message.
Well, yes, but keep in mind that typically within a progressive world, communism is framed as the alternative, which we will point out in My Little Pony. It is very not. It's framed as pure evil, not monarchism. In this world, the alternative to the democratic process is monarchism. Now, I'll note within the show itself, there is a mayor named Mayor. Now, if you only take the show as canon, this to me would mean that there are actually not elections, and this is an appointed position because, I mean, she's named mayor. Right, we never see an election in the show. We never see another leader after.
But you're talking about it's a play on words, right? It's spelled like mare as in a female horse, right?
Absolutely, but like she's named the mayor. But anyway,
determinism. I don't know.
But in the comic book spinoff, we see that actually this is an elected position. So what happens in the comic books? Well, the incumbent current administrator is forced to resign and then has to compete against Filthy Rich, a very rich pony. Well, Filthy Rich, unlike his daughter, who competed in the other election, also uses money, this time without doing underhanded tactics, but he's clearly the less competent candidate, so incompetent that he resigns after winning, to win.
Oh my gosh.
To win. And keep in mind, you could be like, well, progressives complain about how money corrupts election cycles, right? I agree. But the alternative isn't typically monarchism. But in here, monarchism is never questioned. The monarchs within this world are never shown as being, self-centered or flawed, despite the fact that they live in giant palaces that presumably they had other people build to them. There is huge wealth and power disparity between the princesses and the other people in this world.
For sure. Yeah.
No one is shown as able to question one of the princesses. The princesses make decisions to go to war unilaterally at multiple points in the show. How to resolve wars is handed unilaterally in the show. And they are framed as like the perfect philosopher kings, always on the front battle, always trying their best to do right for the people, but with astronomical amounts of power. And I should note here that they're not just framed as like normal monarchs, right? They're not like Munchus Mulbug. No, this show says not only should you have monarchs, not only should they be genetically modified super beings, but they should be treated as gods by everyone else in the world.
But their hair flows in a cool way, of course, obviously.
They are treated as, I'm not wrong here, they're treated as literal gods in the show.
Yeah.
And Twilight like earns this status and is just treated as a god afterwards.
Yeah, I mean.
Okay, so now we're going to go to the communist part.
Oh, no.
Did you ever see this episode? This episode is like shocking. We should show it to our kids. It's a good episode to teach kids about why communism is evil.
Oh my gosh. I don't think I did. A bunch of these episodes I remember. A bunch I don't, though.
So, as we've noted, every pony gets a cutie mark. This is basically the ways that we are genetically different from other people, our inbuilt proficiencies. And it is shown very much in the show. Follow your inbuilt proficiency. Don't try to be good at something that you don't have a natural talent for. I'm actually kind of surprised. I don't think that there's a single episode of the show where somebody's like, but should I actually follow my cutie mark? I don't want to live my entire life by what I was interested in as a teenager. But in the show, you get your cutie mark and everyone can see it too. It's very much like in Starship Troopers when they show everybody's scores on like the board after the test.
Yes.
So everybody knows like this is what you're doing for the rest of your life.
Except you effectively have the score tattooed on your forehead.
And that's effectively what the universe is. Yeah. The magic decides that you're good at something at a certain age. That gets tattooed on you for the rest of your life. And if you go against it, you're just being an idiot and you're going to fail. Because this is an episode where their cutie marks are switched up and they try things that aren't their talent and their lives are shown as miserable. So I love that. That's so anti-urban monoculture. That is, we are born different with different genetic proficiencies. Lean into what you're good at. People can be different and still be friends.
Yeah, that's true. It really does run against blank slateism. That's pretty radical.
Yeah. Look, just because Pegasus have talents and abilities that unicorns don't, or unicorns have talents and abilities that Earth's ponies don't, doesn't mean they can't get along and be friends. Yeah. It's just, they should only live in a non-segregated society when absolutely necessary. Just mostly segregate unless you really want to, be different. So anyway, in the Cutie Map, the main six are summoned by Twilight Sparkle's magical Cutie Map to a remote village where ponies live under the rule of Starlight Glimmer. The villagers have had their cutie marks, unique symbols representing each pony's innate talents, passions, and often racial traits, magically removed and replaced with identical equal signs. This enforces a philosophy of absolute equality. No one is allowed to excel or differ in skills, appearance, or abilities. The result is a gray, monotonous utopian turned dystopia where baking produces bland muffins instead of delicious treats, denying culinary talent. Construction yields shoddy houses, suppressing building expertise. Everyone smiles forcedly, but is secretly miserable, with dissenters locked into re-education rooms blasting propaganda like, in sameness there is peace. Exceptionalism is a lie.
In sameness, there is peace. Exceptionalism is a lie. Free yourself from your cutie mark. Choose equality as your special talent.
Hey, this is pretty good.
By never being your best.
This door shut tighter than a summer of piglets and shoot. I can't even make countryisms no more.
Good morning.
I trust you had a pleasant night. This way, please. There are some friends who would like to see you.
We have a welcome ceremony for new friends. The whole village joins together to build you your own cottage.
Not interested.
Now, to really go against all of this, Starlight preaches that differences cause conflict and that true friendship comes from Satanists, but she's a hypocrite. She secretly maintains her own cutie mark, maintain magic and control. Very Napoleon. This is very much, equality. Some people are more equal than others. It's the progressive treating.
Napoleon the pig from Animal Farm, not Napoleon Bonaparte.
Because we do not separate ourselves by more than name.
In our town, we dare not compete.
Right.
Yeah.
This is not something that would naturally emerge from scenarios of a girl playing with a bunch of girly toys. This is some kind of
very
political message.
clearly an allegory for communism, and not just communism, but the urban monoculture more specifically, denying that humans are born different from each other and with unique traits.
I can't deny that. My gosh.
Within a context that the character is treated as supremely villainous, as threatening as any evil villain that they see in throughout the entire show. And I have to say, I always really like the different characters' reaction to this, because you see, like, if I look at the racial coding of the various characters, it's pretty clear what it is. The Applejack is racially coded as Appalachian, like sort of American redneck. Rarity is clearly coded as a WASP, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. Pinkie Pie is very clearly coded as Jewish. I'm so surprised.
Really?
That that. She is a comedian with fluffy hair who is incredibly gregarious and always hosting parties. Simone, she's Jewish to the core. We often point out that Jews are far more gregarious than other ethnic groups in terms of the size of the friend networks they keep. If you want to see our episode on this, you can look at our Why Do Jews Have Friends episode, because it's just borne out in the data. And come on, the comedian, what's a more classically Jewish job than comedian? Then you have Rainbow Dash, the one with rainbow hair that people often think is gay coded, when not at all. She's very coded as Americana tomboy, like very competitive, very like, I'm the best, I'm the greatest, I can do better than what anyone else can do. And then you have Fluttershy, who I've always taken as coded. Twilight's obviously just autistic, who I've always taken to be coded as either Muslim or Catholic. Very timid woman. And what's funny about this is the way that this timid sort of Muslim Catholic coded character, when they're all singing about how everyone's better when they're equal and they take away the way that everyone is different, is getting really into it and kind of likes the idea, which I think sort of aligns with the weird Muslim progressive alliance that we've seen. Or you could say the Catholic majority areas are still dominantly progressive voting if you look at maps of overlap where Catholic concentrations are in the United States and progressive voting patterns. Whereas the Jewish coded character is giving her a very angry look.
We don't complicate when you learn to simplify life.
And the Americana coded character is like, from the beginning, it's so funny that like it's coded like the other ponies or some of the ponies might accidentally go along with this or think that this makes sense. And the Americana code is like, this is a joke, right? Like immediately after they do their big song, just not having it at all.
You're kidding, right? Give up our cutie marks? No way! Rainbow Dash.
Like, you guys can't be serious. The world would be better if we didn't lean into our unique genetic profiles and talents. And I'll note here where you can be like, well, this isn't aligning with the ethnic background thing. I mean, it's like, well, not exactly. Most cutie marks are in some way tied to the ethnic coding, i.e. Earth Pony, Pegasus, or Unicorn, of the pony that has it. For example, Twilight's cutie mark could only be had by a unicorn because it's tied to magic. Rainbow Dash's cutie mark is tied to flying. It could only be had by a pony of her ethnic affiliation.
You
So
put a
I
lot of thought into this.
explain to you how My Little Pony brainwashed an entire generation of youth into being okay with ethnic differences and accepting that we can have ethnic differences and still get along with each other. And that you should lean into your ethnic differences and admit them, otherwise your life will be horrible. And that communism is terrible and evil, and that monarchism is clearly better than democracy, and that colonialism was actually good, and that natives just needed to take some time to learn. That they actually like this stuff. And that in truth, it is the less privileged ethnic groups like the Earth Ponies that benefit the most from segregation and segregated.
Wait, how?
Well, remember, the only reason that the Apple family is able to make money with their orchard instead of the unicorns using magic is because the unicorns are essentially not allowed to participate in industries that produce basic goods like lumber or apples or food production, which seems to be basically by cultural norms within this universe exclusive to the lower caste of Earth Ponies. And keep in mind, there is like a military race in this. The Pegasus are said to be specifically the military race. There are Earth Ponies in the military, but we are seeing when their society is divided out in the Hearthwarming Eve episode that the Pegasi are explicitly assigned a military caste structure, and the elite groups within the military, like the Wonderbolts, are all Pegasus exclusive.
Man, did you realize this when you were first watching it? Or did you just find yourself thinking about it one day?
I don't know when this happened. I mean, it's something I remember thinking like, this show is great at teaching about ethnic and racial differences, and getting kids to just accept it. You know, some people are just born different, and that's fine. And I did not think about, because I didn't know about like all the comics and stuff like that. The show would never criticize the monarchy. I thought that it would have at some point within like the 22 seasons it got, there would be some episode where they're like, hey, having a genetically modified god king rule absolutely is maybe not the best way to run a society. Nope, never. And I didn't know that every time, it never occurred to me until I was actually like going through this with an AI, every time democracy is brought up, it's framed as corrupted by wealth. The same family both times, by the way. So that's also interesting.
I like the critique because at least it's a little different from others. It's like, listen, democracy, it just doesn't work because wealthy people get involved and ruin it, which is not normally the criticism I hear. So that's interesting too.
Yeah, well, and I also find it to be actually a fairly interesting, like they don't just go into like surface level. It's good to lean into your natural born talents. We are born different, but that doesn't mean we can't be friends. And it doesn't mean that sometimes a Pegasus can't be an animal person. It doesn't mean that sometimes, you know, an Earth Pony can't be a fashionista. It just means that normally they can't or shouldn't try to. Unless
averages are averages, something. Yeah.
Averages, right. I thought that that's what it would stop at, but it doesn't stop at that. It then is like, and actually, we should segregate society because if we don't, it's the Earth Ponies who are going to suffer the most.
Oh my gosh.
I actually, you know, if you look at segregation more broadly, many times it actually is for the benefit of the one that doesn't have an advantage within the field. So, an example here. What is one of the most segregated places of our existing society? Sports. Sports is highly sex segregated. Sports is segregated for the benefit of women.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If we were going to make sports like more fair, right? Like if you were going to say, let's racially segregate the Olympics, right? Who would benefit most from like racially segregating sprinting? Okay. White people would benefit. It is the person who is in the back foot who often benefits from segregation. Segregation, and here what I'm pointing out here is some groups of African genetics appear to just be dramatically faster at short sprinting than
Well, yeah, distance running too. So yeah.
also distance running, but I think they have a bigger advantage in sprinting. I don't remember where the bigger advantage is, but they have a bigger advantage in one or the other. But if you were to racially segregate that, like everyone could be like, how dare you racially segregate that? Who are you helping? You're helping the whites. And this is often true of racial segregation, which is something that I think is just not talked about in our society. And now people can be like, well, it hasn't been used that way historically. And it's like, well, I mean, it actually has with sex segregation in sports. It has with sex segregation of bathrooms. Sex segregation of bathrooms isn't done for the benefit of men. It's done for the benefit of women. Nobody.
Well, you could even argue that racial segregation in, for example, the United States did lead to some really prosperous Black communities, like Tulsa, Oklahoma, right? We went to that museum and they talked about how there was this really like affluent, wonderful community. And then like the white people who were just sitting out there like in the cold, poor, getting really resentful, came and like
burned it down.
Yeah, like destroyed it, because the more segregated Black community was absolutely killing it. They were doing fantastically.
Actually, you make a point there. I haven't thought about this, and I may go into an AI because this could make a very interesting other episode. But I do remember that the Tulsa community wasn't unique. There were a number of areas in the United States, if you go back to the 1950s, where there were known to be extremely wealthy Black communities when contrasted with the neighboring groups. And I am not familiar with, in modern America, extremely wealthy segregated Black communities.
Well, and I feel like there are other maybe examples of, we'll say, forced segregation, like Mormon communities, where like within certain Mormon communities, there are cycles, like up cycles of wealth, because they all kind of feed into each other and collaborate more and try to sell to and buy from each other preferentially.
Yeah, but I wonder if, I mean, that'd be very interesting. It's certainly something we wouldn't learn in school. One of the things that we point out in some of our other episodes, and I'll put the graph on screen here because it shocked me when I saw this. If you look at American Black wealth from the 1950s to today, and then you adjust it by income level, and you contrast it with how much white wealth has raised during this period, contrasted with how much white wealth has gone up when you adjust for inflation, Black wealth has gone up almost nothing since the 1950s. Again, contrasted with how much white wealth has gone up. And this is a Wall Street Journal graph here. Now, there's different ways you can measure this. This is median household income, I think, that can give you different, but like any way you measure it, you see a huge increase in white and a very, very moderate to small increase in this could be caused by the negative economic effects of desegregation, which I've never thought about or looked into before.
Well, and I'm also thinking about the episode that we did on ethnic cartels that sort of talked about, you know, why are certain sort of like random ethnic groups in certain areas, they just like own donut businesses or hotels or 7-Elevens or something like that. And like a big factor then is also in-group favoring, providing very affordable financing, more efficient hiring because it's really culturally compatible, and there's more of an honor system where like, hey, I'm hiring your cousin, you better not screw up because now your whole family's on the line. Like, yeah, there are a lot of things that make me think. If I look at the LDS community, I look at racial or ethnic cartels, and then I look at wealthy and affluent Black communities that existed pre the end of segregation.
There's actually a secondary positive effect of segregation, which comes from these communities, which you're probably not thinking about. So if you look at, you go back to the 1950s or whatever, when a Black individual or Black American would become wealthy, they would often continue to live within a majority Black community. So they would have majority Black culture, but they would also act as a role model for the other, you know, the Black kids growing up in that community.
And bring wealth to that community. Yeah, improve
Black people can achieve. You saw this in like Harlem and stuff like this in New York. It wasn't just like this area. If you go today, when a Black individual becomes wealthy, they just go and move in with a white community, which means that the wealth that they have now and the positive cultural, you know, effect that they could have for the community that they were born in is removed from that community in a modern context.
Yeah,
which didn't happen.
The halo effect, that halo is being moved and is now radiating onto a community that is not primarily Black, you're saying?
Yeah, they're removing whenever somebody becomes successful within because like in our society, wealthy people aren't segregated. Poor people is still very much segregated. Like I can go to a Mexican neighborhood or a Filipino neighborhood or a white neighborhood or a black neighborhood. If it's poor, it's going to be segregated very frequently. It is the extremely wealthy communities that are non-segregated. And that actually has a really negative effect on non-white communities.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even poor white communities probably would benefit from.
Well, I mean, consider, because not every group does this. If you look at Jewish individuals, right? Like, if we talk about why Jewish exceptionalism, this could be one of the traits that leads to it. When a Jew becomes extremely wealthy, they do not move to live with a majority non-Jewish community. They stay within.
Yeah, well, like with the LDS Church, yeah, there's self-imposed segregation.
Yeah, when this is often true for Asian communities as well, because I was friends with like wealthy, Japanese people. They still went to the Japanese cultural events and stuff like that. I've been friends with wealthy Koreans. They do the same. They often stay connected in terms of where they live and their friend network with the less wealthy members of their community, instead of creating communities that are mono wealth ethnic communities.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Oh boy. My Little Pony. This touches on some spicy topics.
Well, it's so funny because I don't know what's her name. Who did My Little Pony Friendship is Witchcraft?
Sarah, I don't know, whatever it is. Anyway, continue. Jenny Nicholson.
Jenny Nicholson, yeah, she got in so much hot water and wanted to distance herself from the entire community because she dared to make some little sub joke in her plots about.
It was a gypsy community. Yeah, it was the gypsy character. And
yeah, gypsy magic. No. She implied, I think, that Pinkie Pie
was a gypsy.
When you're right at devastation, there's a simple explanation. You're a toy maker's creation trapped inside a crystal ball.
Was a gypsy. And then she caught heat from her urban monoculture followers about it, and then just kind of wanted to just throw up her hands and distance herself from the entire My Little Pony community. And here you are highlighting such incredibly more controversial things that just the show unedited released.
Yeah.
Like you can't even
nothing
parody
she
it.
did was as controversial as like just the colonialism episode.
Yeah.
We thought white people were bad until we saw them shoot some of us with guns. Then they realized they have things we want.
Just wow. That was enlightening. Not sure what I think of it yet, but
well, you could be like, okay, even though they were using the apple pies as a weapon, they weren't really an allegory for guns. They were just an allegory for like some sort of food that,
I mean, yeah, they traded beads and clothing too.
No, they what they could say is like, look, it's a food that white people make that Native Americans just couldn't get enough of, so much that they abandoned their ancestral traditions.
God.
Oh no, is it an allegory for alcohol? Like, come on, guys.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, I'll go to the next episode. I love you. The spicy episode, right? Spicy episode, spicier than you expected. One of our
for those who can like push through and get past the fact that they have to come to terms with the reality that they're going to listen to a podcast episode on My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, the little girl show.
Little girl show, all about how monarchy is good and we should live in a racially segregated society.
Yeah, if they can get past that and actually listen to it. We'll see. But I
love you
enjoyed
to
it.
death, Simone.
Love you too, gorgeous.
So how did the comments do in today's video?
I just saw one comment that said that I wouldn't pass a Turing test, which is actually super true because every time I have to do one of those "Are you not a computer?" things, I have to do it like 5 times. I don't pass. But
they said Simone wouldn't pass the Turing test.
Yeah.
What was the
I regularly make teen pregnancy great again. I don't know when that came up. I don't think I mentioned the fact that I like pathologically fail the CAPTCHA tests.
You do.
Every time those come up, I'm like, no.
Yeah. I can't
do it. I think ChatGPT recently passed one, so that's embarrassing. But more on topic today. I'm wondering if you remember what you said to me on our first date when we were making out on the floor of the Four Seasons Hotel.
No,
which was so crazy to me because, of course, I'd never kissed anyone but one other person before you. And here I am, first date, making out with this basic stranger. And then what do you say to me? Would you like to come to my house? I have a jacuzzi bathtub and we can watch My Little Pony. And I'm like, yeah.
That is how you get a nerd to. You were clearly fishing for nerd culture stuff back
I
then.
clearly was. Yeah, it was obvious that my whole profile was keyword stuffed for online nerd references. So yes, 100%. But then, do you know today's also a very special anniversary?
No.
But it is. It is the 11-year or maybe 12-year anniversary of the day you proposed to me on Reddit with commissioned art. And there was indeed a My Little Pony commission.
There
Let
was.
me
Yes.
send it to
We
you
have
on
been
WhatsApp.
involved in the brony community for a long time.
Where you made custom My Little Pony characters for each of us, with your pony character balancing a diamond ring on his head, bowing down so I could see it. Is in my pony form, of course. You've got a little Wi-Fi signal on your pony butt, and I've got a little check mark on mine. I remember your My Little Pony name was Netset. I don't remember what mine was.
Crystal Cog. I remember that.
Crystal. So those were the days, Malcolm.
Those were a crazy, crazy period in internet history.
Yeah, thank you for your very romantic proposal.
I've actually
That was
seen a number
amazing.
of, well, yeah, what was it? What magazine was that? That early magazine that said it was one of the top 10 romantic moments of the year.
Oh yeah, it was some like online.
It was like the main one. It was like
The Daily Dot, wasn't it? The Daily Dot?
No. It wasn't. It was bigger than the Daily Dot. It started with like a B or something. We actually went to their offices at one point in Manhattan, and it's like irrelevant now. But for a while, it like dominated internet culture.
Yeah, time flies.
But, yeah. And now all the blogs are dead, so it doesn't matter anymore.
Crazy. It wasn't. Was it BuzzFeed?
BuzzFeed, yeah.
It was BuzzFeed. Oh my gosh. Yes, now I remember that. Yeah, it was not in the first big roundup of coverage of that.
No, it's at the end of the year when they were ranking romantic events that had happened that year. And yeah, so that was the progressives back then didn't know about us. But
well, no, they did. I'm sure that, both people of all political spectrums saw your Reddit posts saying, I'm going to propose to my wife with this art and with these advice animals. And they're like, okay, let's watch this fail. And
this is back when Reddit was like way more politically neutral. And because back then, I hung out on like Tumblr and Action and Fat People Hate and stuff like that. And there's this article like detailing my Reddit post somewhere. I can't remember. I think it's a Yahoo article trying to be like, and he laughed at a fat person because they had to go to a zoo to get an MRI. And I'm like, and I still laugh at that fat person.
Funny to think about having to show up at the zoo to get your MRI. It's still good.
Oh my god.
I mean, I would laugh. I would laugh.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, at myself, if I were that.
All right, here we go. What game are you guys playing?